Welcome back. For a minute there, Australians breathed a collective sigh of relief, thinking that the worst was over. Most of us had managed to pull through the pandemic and make it out the other side. Then came Russia's assault on Ukraine, followed by that record-breaking rain and flood events here at home.
Now, these natural and human-led disasters are creating financial instability, from insurance to inflation, petrol price hikes and skyrocketing supermarket costs. We're breaking down how the current crises are set to impact your hip pocket. To explain, we welcome back financial advisor and founder of Pivot Wealth, Ben Nash. G'day, Ben. Okay, let's start with insurance. Floods are, of course, top of mind.
Yes.
How does that affect, I guess, the rest of the Australians who aren't immediately impacted? Does it mean it'll impact on our premiums?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, everybody's seen the devastation that's been caused by these floods, and there's only a certain number of insurers in the country, so those claims are going to flow through to almost every single insurer. I think the last time I looked at the numbers, there was over 60,000 claims. They're expecting about $1 billion in payouts, and these companies, that's going to impact their bottom line. The companies are generally listed. They've got there is a drive to remain profitable for their shareholders, and they do provision for these sorts of events. But it's no doubt that those sorts of numbers are going to have an impact. And it seems like the frequency of these major weather events is increasing, which I think is responsible for the upward pressure that we've seen on insurance premiums over the next little bit. And this is likely to push that further.
But do you think a rise of maybe 5% on premiums, 3%, 2%?
Well, I think that they're talking about something up to 50% potentially in some sectors. There's a question in some markets whether insurance will be even offered to the people that were most affected, some potential rezoning of flood areas, and yeah, really unfortunate for the people in those areas, but it could be considerable. I think that there's a messaging thing that the insurance companies don't want to be the bad guys here, but at the end of the day, they're a commercial company and they need to ensure that they're able to deliver what they're doing with some level of profitability. Otherwise, it's unsustainable, and they need to be able to pay claims.
Sure.
And it's that technical redefining, isn't it, of the 1 in 100-year storm that happens the year after it happened last time.
Absolutely.
That's the tricky bit. To inflation now, what's the RBA telling us at the moment?
Well, we're seeing inflation above the RBA's target for sure. The petrol prices are a big driver of that. The Russia-Ukraine conflict, obviously partly to blame there, but also just general cost of living that's flowing through to all household goods essentially. And the RBA don't want inflation to go too far. The traditional mechanism for pushing back on inflation is by increasing interest rates, but the RBA have also came out and said that they recognise that households in Australia have taken on more debt than they have in the recent past with the growth that we've seen in the property market over the last year or two in particular. So they've said that they will be quite mindful of that when increasing interest rates, and doing that in a gradual way such that they don't do a knee-jerk reaction and then it creates issues through the property market and for households, which I think is good to hear.
You touched on just then petrol, something which affects everybody. Talk us through petrol price rises.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, I just saw it on the way in this morning, $2.19 at one place on the Bowser, and I saw an expert come out from the NRMA during the week talking about the average per litre petrol price being above $2 from next week is what they're expecting. I don't think everybody's seen it when you see at the Bowser that cost just does seem to be ratcheting up. The bans on the import of Russian petrol, I think, is limiting the supply across global markets, and that flows through to the prices that we feel in Australia. So it seems that while that disruption is there, and while that conflict continues, it's likely to see more pressure.
And just quickly, it's not just the cost of fuel, of course. Supermarket prices, product availability, in a whole lot of trouble with supply chains. We're seeing headlines like this, right? $100 increase per week for the cost of living. This is terrible stuff for us to read.
Absolutely. Well, every single thing that we buy, or every consumable good essentially, is transported to the place that you buy it from, or to you directly into the country, or not. So that flows through to the cost of all. All goods that we buy, and not just the petrol. Although the petrol is a big part of it, I think that the stats showed that the weekly average spend from a motorist is up $380 a week now from $309 at the back end of 2020, which is a huge increase. And there is some COVID impact there because back end of 2020 there were travel restrictions in place and we were travelling less. But as we're seeing more and more, the demand is there, and yeah, we're feeling it.
All right, lots going on here, Ben. Thank you for your time again, mate. We appreciate that.
Good to be here.
And don't forget, if you're looking for more financial insights, Ben's book, it's called Get Unstuck, and it's available now.